So we wanted to help as many people as possible through this current COVID-19 crisis. And with that in mind, we've put together a disaster scenario planning process in the form of a how-to that I will walk you through over the next 10 minutes or so. My name is Jason Langford Brown, and what we'll do over the next 10 minutes is talk about where are we now and how do we get real clarity on that situation before we start to think about where do we want to be and what are the various scenarios we need to plan for, but most importantly, how can we start to build plans to execute against those various scenarios so we survive and prosper through this difficult time. The framework we will use for this disaster scenario planning is one that we call Now Where How. During these difficult times, people very quickly jump into the firefighting, the how. And really what we need to do is just step back, even only for 10, 15 minutes, and just stop and think about actually where are we currently now and get some real clarity on that and take some time to think about where we might be through various scenarios. It's really, really important that we understand the gap between our current reality and our various scenarios so we can build resilient how-to plans to get us through this current process. It may only be for a 90-day period, but even so, there's a real need to slow down to speed up so we don't waste time and resources. Typically, we would say you need to spend 20% of your time on the now, 20% of your time in the where, but 60% of the time really working out how you're going to achieve things you need to achieve. So let's now talk about how we can put together a really meaningful now analysis. I think the best place to start is what are the immediate decisions we need to take. We're already seeing with a number of clients that we're working with that there's some procrastination on some key decisions. So I think a good place to start is just to stop and just write down what immediate decisions do we need to make, whichever way they might go. Good now analysis normally starts with diagnostics. Diagnostics are a really good, easy, objective way to flesh out the key issues. We have 4 diagnostics on our website around growth and profit, change success, personal change success, and leadership. Normally, you only need a couple of diagnostics. Outside of those 4 that anybody can access on our website, we have probably another 25 different diagnostics that if you work with us, please reach out and we can give you access to those. Once those key issues have been flushed out, I think you really need to ask yourself what are our key challenges in this current time that we actually easily can identify. And then on from that, we need to really ask ourselves when we look at those challenges, are they the real core issues or are they the symptoms? It's really important that we're focusing on the core root problems, not on the symptoms that surround them. Moving on to specific urgent concerns, it's really important that you get out what concerns you, as you are the one that runs your business and has a much better view on it than I or anybody else will have. So those kind of specific, unique things to your business that you know of that are concerning you need to be flushed out. We really need to draw on your experience. And then finally, it's the opportunities. Where's the potential? In all of these situations, there are opportunities. It's not always easy to think in that direction, but if you can just try and change your mindset for a few moments, you'll, I think, very quickly start to see the potential that sits there, even if it can't be realized immediately. For those wanting to have some guidance on how to pull together that now analysis, probably the easiest way, if you want to get onto something very, very quickly, is to pull together a mind map. So I've just drafted here for you what a mind map might start to look like around those key areas of the now analysis. What I've also dropped in there as well is the financial position. I think at this stage, really, really important to be clear about, where are we exactly financially? What's our cash headroom? What's our revenue position? What's our current burn rate, etc., etc., because I think those things are prevalent in these difficult times. Now we have a clear view of where we are now, we can start to look forward into where we want to be. This is where we start to think about our scenarios. The best place to start is thinking about what is our current vision. So for those that have got very clear strategies worked through, that will be fairly easy for you to articulate. If you haven't, I think just take a few moments to be clear about, what vision are you working towards? Because what you can do then is actually start to ask yourself, what impact is our vision what is the impact of the disaster on our current vision? What we then want to do is look at 3 scenarios moving forward. So just to give you some ideas, you might have a light, medium, heavy example, which we put here. So it might be low severity, where we've got minimal disruption and even business as usual. Or in some cases at the moment, you may actually have a spike in business. You may actually be doing better than you were. Medium severity, maybe you've got an impact of 20%, 10, 20% of revenue, an impact on cash and capacity. And high severity might be a disaster where maybe over 50% of revenue loss hits you. But as we know, some people are already moving towards much bigger numbers than 50%. So if low severity, medium severity, high severity don't work, and you're already in a very high severity situation, you might want to shift your scenarios into more if these things continue over a short, medium, or long term. They're just a couple of examples. There's no rules. You just need to work out what 3 scenarios are. I think you just need to not be overly optimistic. If you're looking at time frames, the long term may be as much as a year before you get full recovery, and you just need to then set those out. Just to help to know that you've considered each scenario fully, you might want to use a pest analysis that just help you think around different scenarios. For those that don't know pest analysis, again, it's on our online resource centre for those that are clients of ours. P stands for political, E is economical, S is social, T is technological, E is environmental, and L is legal. So just think of things around those 6 areas, and that might just flesh out more thinking. It's also important that we list the assumptions that we are making for each of our 3 scenarios. Ultimately, a scenario is a best guess of where we think we might end up. So it's really important that we're clear about those assumptions so that as things become clearer or change as we move forward, we can start to change those assumptions or move them as we need to. Again, just for guidance and facilitation, I would maybe suggest you get 3 big charts up on these and list your 3 scenarios on each chart and write at the top of the page what your assumptions are for each one before we move it to the next phase, which I'll talk about shortly. Now we need to move to how we're going to respond to this disaster. And this is where you really should be spending most of your time. And as I said earlier, probably at least 60% of your time. I think the first thing to say is, what are the key urgent issues for the next 1, 7, and up to 30 days that we will need to work on? We need to ask ourselves, if the severity escalates, what will we do? We obviously need to think about risks. So what are the risks and how do we mitigate them? Again, for those that have got access to our resource centre, the FMEA tool is a great way to facilitate that conversation. We obviously need to think about waste if we're under pressure. If we need to take cost out of the business and remove cost, the profit and waste tools in the toolbox will really help you with that. And going back to the point of opportunity, there will be opportunities. There may even be opportunities to grow through this process. So again, look at the growth model, look at the product portfolio, and even the force analysis tools to help you to facilitate that conversation. Once you've worked all that through, I would go back to your 3 sheets and then use the bottom 2/3 of that sheet to actually start to bullet out, what are the specific actions required through scenario 1. I would say when you first do this exercise, the scenario 1 should be very, very thoroughly worked through. And you'll see then in scenario 2 and 3 that you'll probably carry a lot of those things through on 2 and 3, but you'll start to add additional points if those things start to play out. You might also find that 2 and 3 might be slightly sketchy at the start, but again, as you move forward over time, over the coming weeks and hopefully not months, but maybe months, you might start to develop those more fully as those scenarios become more likely. What we need to do now is document the plan. So the objective here now is to collect all the core actions into a clear 1-page plan for the next 30 days. Just remember, the process can be repeated after that or even sooner. It's much, much easier to pivot from a plan than not to have a plan and then have to kind of rethink every day or every week what you're going to do as things change and move. You need to ask yourself, is the plan capable of success under each of the 3 scenarios? We need to think about what could stop us, because there will be barriers. So good at this point to think about that early. And again, we have the change success model for those people with access to our resources, where you can start to think about what are our chances of success before we even do anything. And we do have a change success diagnostic on our website for those that aren't clients of ours, where you can run your scenarios through and get some kind of sense of where your barriers might be. Make sure we keep the plan current at all times. It may need to be reviewed weekly or even daily. And it's really important that we communicate the plan to everybody in the business. We haven't talked about communication, but I would be really, really concerned if in your scenarios you don't have huge amounts of actions around communicating with your people on a regular basis and communicating with your clients and your market. Get the objective clear and make sure that everyone's working to key results, OKRs if you like those, or KPIs. But the key here is to get accountability for all the actions and make sure that there's ownership of everything. And as we've kind of alluded to already, be prepared to pivot the strategy or model as we get more insight on the issues. Things are changing daily, so we need to be ready to pivot. And then lock in accountability loops between you and your trusted advisor. It's really important to get some close support over the coming months, so while you navigate through this. For those that are working with us, make sure you reach out to us and pull on us to help and support you. But for those that aren't working with us, think about who your trusted advisor is and maybe use them as a bit of false accountability through this difficult time. Before we summarize up this short how-to, we just wanted to give you a few final thoughts that might help and enhance this process for you. Depending on the severity of your business's situation, think really, really seriously about creating a war room. A war room's really good at keeping the plan alive that we mentioned in the previous slide. And I think it really makes a statement to the business that we're on this and we're serious about this. We have a CEO currently that we're working with who's decamped completely from her office into the war room. All the working charts are in there, the plans are live, people feel free to come and go as they need to. So it's a real kind of in the moment environment to really work as a group and a team on the current challenges. Secondly, really think about the accountability, rhythm and rigor. We've kind of alluded to this, but you're going to need massive discipline and focus through this process. So, you may even need to be thinking about having daily huddles so that you're checking on each other on a daily basis. I think you'll certainly need to ensure you're having weekly updates and monthly reviews. And the quarterly strategic momentum and annual strategic resets that we would say in this process are probably less important. I think if this does drag on, I think it's really important you do start to challenge yourself and ensure that you're not becoming too tactical and that you are keeping strategic or even changing your strategy as things move. Finally, you need to look after yourself. As the leader, this is going to take huge energy and resources personally to navigate your team and your business through this situation. There's lots of things we could say about looking after yourself, but we just thought we'd share this with you because I think there is a lot of anxiety currently. And I think what as a leader you're going to need to do is try and live as much as possible in the present. Living in the present is going to ensure that you're calm and that you're making clear, concise decisions. When we're anxious, we tend to be living in the future and worrying about what may or may not happen. And when we're doing that, we're running usually very unhelpful images and movies through our mind that affects our state of mind and our physiology. If we do look back into the past, some people do go there. It's, when we're looking back at the past and we know what's happened, it's almost a depressed state. So again, it's similar, but just our feelings are different. And it's backward looking, but even so, it still puts us in a place that's less than positive, and we're running images through our mind that are unhelpful. What we need to remember is when we're in that future anxious state or in that past depressive state, it will come through in our physiology and our teams will notice it, and we need to be strong for them and optimistic for them, and we need to get back in that present so we can make those clear, concise decisions and be there for our people when they need us. So to wrap up in terms of next steps, we recommend that you decide who will be involved. You may need a task force depending on the nature of your situation. We do recommend you just do it. There's no point procrastinating at this situation. The quicker you get on and do it, the quicker you'll get control and focus. Review the plan weekly, adapting and pivoting as we go. But as we said before, you may need to daily huddle depending on your situation. And then make sure you set a time, place and format, either face-to-face or virtual, probably virtual at the moment, for your next catch up with your trusted advisor. So if that's with us personally, then make sure you reach out if we haven't reached out to you already. If you're going to use an existing trusted advisor, get that in your diary. And hopefully at the end of all this, we can all survive and prosper. We hope you found this useful. As I said, our objective is just to get this out to as many people as possible so we can help as many leaders and businesses get hold of their current situation and come through in a more positive place, whenever that might be. If you can forward it on to people, we'd appreciate that. If you need more information, just reach out to us. Or if you're a customer and we've not been through this with you yet and you need help, you know where we are. If you're not a customer and you want us to get more involved in helping you directly, if you're in the UK or Europe, reach out to me, Jason Langford Brown, on the contact details you see in front of us. And if you're in our Australia or Asia markets, reach out to Mike, again on the contact details you see ahead of us. I'll just take this opportunity to wish you all the very best, and we hope that your families are well and that we all come through this as well as we can. All the best.